Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us for another Digitalab Live. We're really lucky today to have Ron Nichols from ProSelect here this evening. And basically, over the last few weeks, we've realised how popular this program's become, especially with a lot of our photographers through the lab. With virtual IPS, it's really helped out through this awful month of lockdown. And it's been fantastic to see sales starting to generate off the back of this retargeting customers. So we thought it would be a brilliant opportunity to ask Ron, who's one of ProSelect's gurus here, along to show you a few of the different features that you might not have came across. I know a lot of you took advantage of the fantastic Black Friday deal that the guys had on. And we'll just basically go through some of the features you might not have realized was there and go through some questions and answers at the end. So without further ado, thank you very much for joining us, Ron. Great to see you, and take it away.
All right, thanks so much, Alex. Well, it's great to be here. I've been involved with ProSelect for actually about 15 years now. I actually worked with a lot of the other major IPS programs before IPS was even IPS. It was back in the day it was a normal course just to meet with our clients and to discuss everything, but been doing projection back pretty much almost my whole career. And ProSelect is just about the fourth or fifth or sixth generation of all that, and it just makes it so much easier. I'm just shocked when I look back. I've been in the process. I actually just sold my studio building, and going back and looking at the all that we used to have to go through to be able to take and present images to a client. And now it's just with a few clicks of a button, it's almost instantaneous, and things we can do are just phenomenal. So it's really exciting to have been a part of this long evolving process. And so I spend most of my time, I'm a consultant to ProSelect. I'm a consultant to different studios. I've taught all over the world, most of it all on in-person sales, workflow, the whole process. My whole thing is that what you'll find is with ProSelect actually becomes a hub in your studio, that it pulls everything into one place. And what happens is when you adopt a true ProSelect workflow, and that's what I want to show you today, you'll be amazed at how simple things be. So many times photographic instructors go out there, and when they teach, they show things, and it's just very complex, very convoluted processes to get there. I believe in making something the absolute most simplest process, everything from the way your images are organized on your drive to the final output. So what I'm going to do here today is, it's not often that I get to do a 4.5-hour program like this. So this is exciting to be able to have some time to work with. I'm just kidding there. See, at least it's always the interesting thing about when everything went virtual is you don't get any feedback from anybody. I like to be a little bit of an entertainer.
It's hard to run just off the camera, isn't it?
I know, and it's like you don't get the audience reaction. And when everybody goes, "Oh, you're going to go 4.5 hours," it's like, oh well, no. It's only 2:30 in the afternoon here in Michigan in the U.S. So we're still running high and flying high, but you guys are already kicking back and drinking your wine and your
tea
beer and tea and whatever it may be. So anyway, what we are going to do today, I'm going to do something very different than what I've done before. And we're going to take the whole first part of the program is what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a ProSelect workflow from beginning to end. What I've done is I've reset my ProSelect to exactly the way that if you go out today and if you buy ProSelect, or if you recently bought ProSelect, or your data is reset to completely the default setup in ProSelect. I'm not going to set up anything else. And I'm going to take, and we're going to show you with just how with minimal modifications, how you can take and you can start selling and making money and be able to take and run this through the production to be able to get final output images to be able to send to Digitalab or any of the other labs that or anybody that you want to work with. No other labs. You're only going to send it, unless you're in the US, you're probably going to have to. It takes a little longer to get stuff across the ocean, but I'm sure it could be worked out. Right, Alex?
We're getting there. We're getting there, yeah.
Getting there. All right. So what we're going to do is I want to go through this whole workflow process. So what I suggest that you do is, first of all, if you've got a computer, you probably may be sitting there, you've got your computer, and if you're like me, you're working off multiple screens all the time. Do not try and do what I'm doing in ProSelect along with me. I want you to take and just bring up a document or a pad of paper or something, and you can write down some notes. Okay, if you have questions along the way, write down those questions too, or type them in, or do something like that. What I find is that I run at a very, very fast pace when I'm teaching, and so you're never going to be able to grasp everything that I'm talking about here. But what we're going to do is I want you to take and get an idea of the whole concepts of where we're going to go with all this, and then we can come back and put it together, and then we can go through and talk about some different segments at the end. So kind of this first part that I'm looking at here, we're probably going to maybe be about 20 minutes or so to get through a process from beginning to end. It may take a little longer, we'll see. And then we can kind of open it up and do a little bit more of a free-for-all with things with ProSelect and different ways to do it. So does that work for you, Alex?
That sounds good to me, mate. Yeah.
Good. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. We're going to share this here. And what I'm going to do is the whole process here is what I'm going to do is in this process, I am going to give you the keys to the kingdom. Okay. And there's a few things and there's a few rules according to Ron. And if you follow those rules, you will be amazed at what you'll be able to do, what you'll be able to accomplish in ProSelect. And it's a very, very simple process. Now, if you notice, what we were looking at is you're clearly not looking at ProSelect, you're looking at Lightroom. Now, let me tell you, I am not a huge Lightroom fan. I've never been a big advocate of Lightroom because I think people get into Lightroom, they get sucked into it, and they do a whole bunch of things that they probably may tend to not usually do, but they can, because they can do it, they get sucked in and start doing all kinds of extra things. I'm a big believer in the philosophy that we need to be able to get the images need to be in a sellable state. If you can shoot good enough that you can set your camera to shoot a JPEG and a RAW file at the same time, and you can just take and we can bring those JPEGs right into ProSelect, we can sell from those. That's ideally the best way. If you need to shoot raw files and be able to go through and make some adjustments, if you're having to make substantial adjustments on your images before your clients look at them, I'm not talking about retouching or anything. I don't want to get into, I don't believe in going down that road ahead of time. But in terms of processing your images for white balance and exposure and things, we want to do that in Lightroom. And ProSelect has the ProSelect plugin for Lightroom that when you install ProSelect now, it will automatically take and ask you if you want to install that plugin. You want to tell it yes. If it's not installed in ProSelect, you can just simply go to your Help menu and go to Help and then Install Lightroom plugin. It'll find it. It'll put the Lightroom plugin out there for you. So what I've got is when we take and we offload our images from our camera, one of the things that I want to do is, I mentioned, keep it very simple. When we bring the files in, I want to offload them and make two sets of files. One of them I'm going to put into a working directory. That's on my main drive. I'm going to make another backup copy. This is going to go on another set of images or another hard drive that is stored separately. Then these raw files are coming in and they're going into a folder named with the client's name. So in this case, this happens to be my daughter and her boyfriend and some, I don't know, they'll probably end up engagement pictures, I'm guessing, but I'm not sure. But young romance. And so in this case, I named it Taylor and Alex. I would usually typically put a last name in there, but since it's my own family, I can recognize my kids, so I didn't have to put a last name in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all these images into a folder. So I'm just going to make a folder that would say Nichols or Taylor and Alex and the maybe the date on that folder. If I've got JPEGs and RAWs, they're both going to go in that same folder. I do not want to segment the JPEGs and RAWs from that folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring all the files in. I'm going to bring them into Lightroom, going to import all these images into Lightroom, and then what's going to happen is then from there, once I've got the images brought into Lightroom, I'm going to create a smart collection. You can see I've got a whole series of smart collections here in Lightroom, and so I can just click on that. I want to work, when I'm working in Lightroom, I want to work in a smart collection format as opposed to working off the folder view, because if I start making changes in the folder view, that changes things on my hard drive, and so I want to avoid having that actually happen. So I want to be be in control of there. So what happens in Lightroom, I'm going to go through and I'm going to make all my processing adjustments. I'm going to bring up my images. I'll be in the develop module and we'll go through and make whatever necessary adjustments on whatever files that I, want to work with. Then I can sync the files and be able to get everything exactly to the way that I want these files to appear. Then what I would do is I'm going to go through the images and then I'm going to use the pick flag and I would just hit the X key for any image that I want to get rid of. I'm just going to do a quick, real rough edit in here. I can actually do my final editing, and when I use the term editing, I'm referring to the culling of the images, deciding what is going to get fed into the ProSelect album. So you can see I've got images that are in here that have a that is rejected. So that's a rejected flag. Then if you notice here, I've also got a few images in here that I've got that actually have, you can see there's some that have a star on it. I thought I just recently saw one in here where you can do your star ratings in Lightroom, and you can actually carry those over into ProSelect. Now, I'm not a big on star ratings, but okay, so here's an image where you can see I've got a 1 star on it. I went through and I actually, because I kind of went backwards here because I had a set of retouched images and I need to be able to get back to those at a point to be able to illustrate some things for you later in this presentation. So I actually took and 1 starred those images so I can see, and that star rating can actually carry into the new versions of ProSelect with our star rating system. So what happens is we get all of our images that we're actually going to take and show. We're going to hide any of the rejected images that we want to get rid of. Then I would take and I'm going to do a Command A. I'm going to select those images, then I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Export. And then when I go to our export module, we'll have an option here for ProSelect. So what that's going to allow me to do is to be able to take and export out a set of files. Now what it's going to do, it's going to create a new album. It's going to grab my folder name. Again, usually this would typically have a last name in there, and it's going to tell it to create a new album. I've got star ratings. If you're using the star ratings, you want to carry those into ProSelect, we can tell it to use the star ratings. I'm going to go to a full JPEG, the quality of 80%, which is fine, and I'm going to work in the sRGB color space. I'm going to go ahead and click Export. So at this point, what it's going to do is it's going to go through and it's going to take and it's going to render out a JPEG file for each one of these raw files that I have selected, put it in the same folder right next to the raw file, and then it's going to import that into ProSelect. So what we've got here is we're going to go into ProSelect, and this is what we have. Now I created this album before we actually got online because I didn't want to have to wait the time to be able to start rendering all of these files here. So what we're going to do is in the ProSelect interface, to kind of give you a brief overview of the interface. Up in the upper left here, I've got a smiley face, a straight face, and a happy face. Those are our sorting tabs. Here we've got our messages. This is for our mirror display area to be able to control what my client sees. And over here, I have my various working with modes. And whenever you hear me use the term working with images, working with layouts, working with rooms, working with books, and working with slideshows, this is what I'm referring to. I will be in one of these modes up there at the top. There's shortcut keys. I is for images, L is for layouts, R is for rooms. B does not go to books. B will convert an image to black and white. So you got I, L, and R. Those are your working with modes. If you're looking to look something up in the user manual, this is where you're going to go to. You want to look up the working with mode is where we'll give you a reference. Over on the right hand side are all of my tools, and depending on what is selected, there's going to be various tools that will be available. At the bottom of my screen is my information bar. You can see it's got my stars down here. I can rate images. If I click on this particular image right here, you can see that one now reflects my 1 star that I brought in from Lightroom. We can also see if frames or mats are assigned on each one of the images. And then down here we have what are called image sets. Image sets allow me to be able to sort images to essentially within folders within the particular ProSelect album job. Now, one thing we want to keep in mind is that we've got in ProSelect here that the images that we're viewing are internal ProSelect images. We exported a set of JPEGs, but ProSelect made a set of internal JPEGs that are held within the ProSelect PSA file. one of the things that I want to share with you is a huge hidden secret here. I'm going to go up to the Help menu, and I'm going to go to Help Open Reference Manual. Now, this is probably the biggest secret in ProSelect, and it is the best kept secret out there. This user manual is really phenomenal. And what it does, it's a hyperlinked table of contents. You got 4 pages of contents here, so you can go in here and you can review anything. You want to learn about the template editor, go to my templates. I can go here and click on this, and everything is hyperlinked. And look at all these different hyperlinks that are all through this. It'll take you to different areas of the manual. So it's going to get you, gives you a ton of information. There's also tons of videos out on the ProSelect website. Now, what I want to do here is I'm going to go to Image Organization and Workflow. Okay, so if we're talking about organizing your images, so here we're talking about the images, how all the images are going to get organized on your system. But what I'm concerned about is I want to get into these workflow options, and there's various workflow options in here. And what this is that these are step-by-steps for preparing your presentation, selling your job, and doing final output. And there's various ones here. As you can see, this is a JPEG or RAW workflow if you're using only Photoshop. Next one, we've got a RAW workflow using Lightroom. This is exactly what I'm going to be working with today. This is where my starting point is, where I'm going to start out. So when you go back and refer to these steps, you want to see what I did, you can simply go back here and look at this. Now, I don't write the user manual. Peter writes the user manual, again, does a phenomenal job on it. But this workflow section, I did write this, this section of the manual. This is our presentation, how we're going to go through and sell, and then our post-production. And what we're going to do is we're actually using a RAW workflow that is using, we're going to be using Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw on the back end of it. So those are kind of the processes. That gives you a pane. So thing going. So I've already talked for 20 minutes. How do you like that? And we haven't even really started working with ProSelect. So I guess I better get going here. All right, we doing good, Alex?
Looks good for me, mate. Yep.
Anybody out there?
Yes, we've got quite a few people on already.
Good.
I'm basically keeping a check on all the questions. So if you do have any, please feel free to drop them in the comment section on YouTube, and we'll get through as many as we can at the end as well.
Okay. All right. So what we've got here, so we've got all of our images. So now when I bring in my image, I did kind of a rough call or edit of the images in Lightroom. Now I have everything brought into here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide whether or not we're going to show an image to a client. I can move images into my yes, maybe, and no keys by using the keys 1, 2, and 3. So at this point, I'm only concerned with keys. I want to start out with all my images in the maybe group, and I'm only concerned with getting rid of images that I definitely want to get rid of. So in this particular case, I'll leave this image in. This one is fine. Okay, I hit my right arrow key. Now this image is clearly bad, so I'm going to tap the 3 key, that move that into the next group. This one, he doesn't look that great on this particular image, so I can tap the 3 key. Now I'm going to say, okay, we'll leave this one in the 2. This one, the eyes don't look so great. That's the 3. All right, this one's a 2. This one is going to be a 2. That's one we're going to keep in there. This one is going to be a 2. We'll keep that one in there. This one we're going to keep. This one we're going to keep. There we go. We got various images up. This one we're going to go ahead and we're going to tap the 3 key to get rid of that. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to get rid of all of the various different images, the images that I don't want to show my client. I'm not going to go through 193 images, and I also don't want to show my client 193 images. But we're going to go through here and make the selections. If I wish to compare images and decide which is going to stay and which is going to go, I can take and I can bring up multiple images on the screen. You can see I just selected multiple images there. I can zoom up on any image by right-clicking. The zoom point is going to orient based on where my mouse cursor is centered on the image. If I hold my shift key and I right click, I can zoom up on multiple images on the screen so I can see them all at once. So I can see if there's anything that I actually want to take and get rid of, or if I want to keep or lose any of the image. If I decide that I want to take and I want to get rid of this image, I can just simply select it, click on the 3 key, and that sends that image down. If I hold my shift key and space bar, I can move around multiple images. This is really useful if I'm working on a family portrait, for example. Okay, this one I can see he's a little softer. I was shooting with a very wide open lens, so I'm going to go ahead and toss that into the no group. I can go ahead and tap my T key. That takes me back to my thumbnail view. My thumbnail view will toggle, my T key will toggle me in and out from thumbnail to my show image view. That will be one of your most useful shortcuts that you'll have out there. All right, so what we've got is we're going to go through all these images. Now, once I've gone through and parsed all of my images, I want to get rid of these no tab images. I don't want to take any chance of my client seeing those images. So I'm going to simply flip to my no tab, and then I'm going to go ahead and we are going to go to album, and I'm going to click on remove no tab images, and that took the no tab images out of ProSelect. All of my original source files are still there, but it just took those out of ProSelect so I don't have to worry about those images anymore. Well, the next thing I want to do is I want to take and I want to start preparing some of the images for ProSelect. Okay, look at this one. Okay, that's good. She's got her eyes closed there. We'll just go ahead and toss that one back into the no group. We look at those. Those are kind of blinky again. This is where I would have caught some of these if I'm going through on an edit. Let's look through here and find a particular image. All right. Okay, so here I've got an image and I want to go through and I actually want to take, I mentioned before that I'm not big on retouching or pre-touching prior to the images. ProSelect has pre-touching built right into it. So what we can do here is I can go ahead and click this icon here on the right, this pre-touch images icon. So what this does is that brings up my perfectly clear interface. We're using perfectly clear technology to do the retouching on an image. And what it does is when it comes up here, I'm just right clicking again to bring this up so you can look close and you can see what's happening here. If I hold my space bar, this applied a basic retouch. There's various different pre-touching in here that you can actually take and you can use on the images. So we can take, if I want to flip through these different ones, you can go through and you can look at some different options out there. There's ones with exposure control in there. There's a female enhance, okay, that they're doing different things. We can adjust the intensity of the retouching by changing this intensity slider. So obviously that is way, way too much. And so we can start and we can back that pre-touching amount down. In this particular case, we can go back in here and this is basic retouching is going to work out fine. It's going to clean things up just a little bit to be able to take and just blend the skin tones again. Notice how it's brightening up the eyes, it's whitening up the teeth. Just does a little bit of cleanup work, makes those images look a little bit better. So all I have to do is go ahead and click save, and that image is now pre-touched. Well, one of the things that we can do is we could actually go through and we could batch pre-touch images. So I could apply this to many images. I'm going to go here and we'll just take and I can just select these images right here. If I go into the pre-touching interface, what it does is it brought up my last preset. Just like in Lightroom, I can click all these and then I can go ahead and I can click sync. And then what it's doing now is it's going to go through and it's taking, and when I click save here, it's now applying that pre-touching on each one of those images to get that ready for my presentation. Notice the thumbnail tag of the pre-touch icon that's showing up there. So we've got those images are pre-touch. If I want to go in here and I want to just apply it to these images here, I could actually just go over here on the pre-touching. I can right click any of these icons that have a little arrow to the right and it clicks a right touch, right click menu. So I can just go to my most recent pre-touch and I can apply that pre-touching right here without going into the pre-touching interface. All right. Well, we're going to go through and we're going to assume that we've got all of our images prepared and ready for our client presentation. The first thing that I want to do with my client presentation is I want to prepare a slideshow. So I can go to my working with slideshows mode. Again, I click that right up here. You can see I have 187 images here that are in this particular group. I'm going to say, you know what, that's too many images to show my client. So I'm going to go back to my working with images here, and I'm going to do a little bit of filtering. Remember how I said I had some star filtering on here? Now we've got different ways that we can filter with images. Okay, we've got the star rating, but I can also go through and I can use a favorites tab. If I tap the F key, you can see it applied a little thumbs up logo on the corner there. You can create your own logo, or there's a couple different ones that are available. right within ProSelect. So we can assign a favorite to an image. It's a way to be able to take and engage things for the client. That F key just toggles that on and off. We can go through here and filter. So I'm going to go through here and tell it to take and bring up and filter based on my star rated images. And so what I can do is we can go ahead and we can take that particular set of images right there. I can just do a Command A, and I'm going to go ahead and just favorite all of those images right there. And now I'm going to go back to my working with slideshows. Now what happens here in my working with slideshows, you can see here, I have a set of images right here with 19 images that have got a thumbs up icon. That becomes just my favorite images that are right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to drag that up to there, and that has all of the images that are in that favorite set of images. I'm going to simply delete that set from my timeline. So here's all my favorite images. There's 19 of them. This is any layouts that I had, if I prepared any layouts ahead of time, or rooms. I haven't done any prep work ahead of time on the rooms or layouts, so I'm not going to, they'll just get ignored. I can remove them, but doesn't make a difference whether they're there or not. So here in the slideshow, one of the things that I can do is I can take in the slideshow, the slides are now going to come up based on this particular order in this set. If I want to change that, I can go ahead and click current display order. And what it's going to do is going to convert all of these to original images. And I can now take and I can move them around if I want to change my display order. So if I want to take and say I'm going to move this image up to the front, we can go ahead and we can do that. Now you can see I've got title slide down here. We have various different resources that are available down here in the lower section. Well, I want to take and go ahead and put a little video up here in the front that says welcome to the ordering session. And then maybe I'm going to take and use a welcome slide. I'm going to use this one instead of this one. And again, you can create your own different title slides that will be available there. You can also go through here, and I'm going to take and I'm going to put in a title slide here, a custom title slide. See the little right arrow here? That gives me tells me that this text is going to appear right there. It's got a warning sign on it because I haven't assigned any text to it. So all I have to do is go up here and click on my text, and I'm going to go ahead and put Taylor and Alex. Go ahead and click close. You can see my warning sign has gone away. So what happens now is when I click on this, I can get a preview, and you can see now it created a title slide now for this particular image right there. Well, I can go here. I've got different things happening for my slideshow. So this is how my slideshow is all ready to go. You can have different templates that'll automatically take and build all these up for you all together, and you have various different slideshow styles that you can create. I'm just going to use a default one here. Well, now I'm ready to show my slideshow to my client. All we have to do is we can simply click the slideshow button, and that will launch the slideshow. So I'm just going to click it here and let it just, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just kind of give you an idea. Okay, all right, so there's our slideshow. So we can run through that slideshow and we can show that first to our client. It's all ready to go. I don't have to render anything out with this particular slideshow. There's lots of music that is built right into ProSelect, so I could change the song. I could go through here and pick any of these other songs, or you can actually go search a music library and pick from around 40,000 songs out there that's available in the Plus Music Library. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do when my client comes in is we're going to go through and we are going to take and we are going to show the client a slideshow to be able to start familiarizing with the images, to be able to get them kind of tuned up for the purchasing process. Notice I even showed a title slide that said, welcome to your ordering session. That's built right into ProSelect, and also says, please don't take cell phone pictures of this whole thing. If you were doing anything in ProSelect where you're working in a virtual session, so for example, that if you wanted to take and do a virtual session and with a client with Zoom, since everybody's on lockdown right now, I can take and we can throw a watermark on all of the images. So if we go up here and we go to view and we go to protect images, and I don't know why I don't have a protect images stamp coming up here. So let's go for our stamps, watermarks, and logos. Protect, copyright. Let's assign this one to it. Close, option G. There you go. Okay, so there, you know, is a watermark, and you can create, you can bring in different graphics or use text, or it'll have your studio name or whatever. With that Command G or Control G on a PC, we'll just turn that off so you can watermark that. You can make it larger, more dense, whatever. On the images. All right, well, before we get into the process of actually ordering, I'm going to do a little bit something. I want to take and I want to bring in some of the products that we have, some of Alex's products here from the lab. So what I did is I previously downloaded some files. So I'm just going to go out here. I went to the to their website. You can go to the Time Exposure website, and there'll be a link out there on Time Exposure back to Digitalab's ProSelect files. And let me just bring this up here. And I'm going to go to my downloads. And you're going to see I've got a collection here. This is a TPK file. And so I'm going to double click on that. And so what it's going to tell me here is we've got some different things that we can bring in. These are multi-apertures, wall art that are in the templates. We have mats. We've got some different mounts that are available here. Notice this one, it tells me that it has a conflict. So what I'm going to do is I need to take, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell it to just replace it with the mat. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change that to add. And then we're going to go to the frames here. And then on this one, Alex, we should fix this one. We're going to, there's a frame in there that's assigned to the wrong group. Okay, look at how we find your flaws on the stuff. I know there's a lot of variables here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click import. And so what this is doing is this is bringing in their products that they have assigned already. It brings them in. It's going to load all these different frames and everything. So we have all those available. So you hanging with me, Alex? We doing okay?
We're doing great. Yeah. I mean, the import process has really sort of open people's eyes to what's available, because they can kind of cherry pick what they want to offer as well. That's the great thing about it.
Right, exactly. You don't have to import all of these different frames. You can, in the Pro version of ProSelect, you can bring in 300 up to 300 different frames. And you know, as you're offering more, that can be good, but it also can be a little bit of a detriment with your client. So when we get back into the process now with my client, I've got some of these different products that are now available right within ProSelect. So what I want to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is have the client start selecting their images that they want to work with. I'm going to have my filtering. You can see my filtering is enabled right here, and you can see it's highlighted in gold. If I look down here in the lower left, it tells me I'm only showing 19 of 187 images. I want to get back to all my images, so I'm going to turn my filtering off. So now I have my filter is off, as you can see, and I'm available for 181 images. So I'm going to go back to the first image here, and we're going to have the client look at this image. Now I explained to my clients what we're going to do is we're going to go through the images one by one, and I want you to give me a yes, a no, or a maybe. And with that yes, no, or maybe, what I'm going to do is we're going to move the images into the different groups. A yes is an image that, yep, I really like that image. That's something I'd consider owning. A maybe is an image that it's nice, but it's probably not one of my favorites. And no is no thanks. Now, it's important that when you're positioned in your sales or your presentation room, that your clients are looking back over your shoulder. They are looking at a projection screen or a large screen TV. I like projectors over TVs, but in any case, I want to be looking at my client. So I can see their expression. I can see mom and dad when they're looking at each other. I can see hesitations. I can read their expressions. I can read their body language. That's critical, in my opinion, when we're in the sales process. Now, I also want to go through and I want to take and I'm going to ask the client, I'm going to say, is it okay if I give you my opinion as we go through these images? This is critical, because what that allows us to do is it allows us to be able to take and chime in when they're hesitating. If they have an image that they think is a yes, and I think it shouldn't be in there, I can chime in and do it. If I can see mom and dad are kind of hedging, you know, or one likes it, one doesn't, I can be a tiebreaker. It helps you keep control of the situation so you can move very fast. So the client looks at this particular image, and they can say, is this a yes, no, or maybe? I'm going to click, they're going to say, oh, that one's a no. Okay, is this one yes, no, or maybe? Yeah, that's a maybe. This one, yes, no, or maybe. That one's a maybe. This one, yes, no, that's a no. So we're going to go here. Oh, that one's a no. You know, no's are okay. The whole idea is we want to get through a manageable group of images that we're going to go through here, and we're going to work, and we're going to get some different images. I want to move things up. This one, okay, we're going to throw that one into the yes group. Okay, this one, this one's a maybe. Okay, this one, that's a maybe. This one, let's put that into the yes group. This one's a no. Isn't good. So we're going to go through there. The client will say, well, you know, I like that last one better. Don't worry about it. I don't want to, you don't want to go into comparing images at this point. I want gut reactions from images. So we're going to go through here. Our goal is to be able to create 3 piles of images. Our yes group is going to be the images that we're going to work for all of our primary sales. Our maybe group is a secondary pool of images that I'm going to have to be able to flush out secondary products. And my no group of images, I shouldn't have to go into those. So we're going to go through the whole process with client and do the yes, no, or maybes. We're going to accelerate it here because I am once again, I'm going to filter on these images, and I know these are the images that I want in my yes group, so I'm just going to simply select them and punch them into the 1. So now I have all of these images here into my yes group. So this is these would be my final client selections. So this is where I'm going to actually start the process. Now, let me back up just a little bit, that if I had images, if I had multiple images that were similar in the yes group, I would go back and I would take and I would do some different comparing on those images. Got to turn my filtering off here to get to all of them. That will throw you a little bit if you turn your filtering off and you don't know what happens. So again, I can take, if I had 3 of these images that were all in the yes group, I only want to have 1 of them in there. So this is the point where I'm going to go through and we can take and we can zoom up on these images. We can see which ones we don't want. So I clearly don't want that one. I don't want that one. So I can tap the 3 key. So this is the one that would stay if I was working in that yes group. I don't ever want to compare images that I don't want the clients to eliminate. So if I've got multiple images up on the screen, I can bring all these up here. The client says, oh, can I see that one up in the top right, okay, or top left, okay? You might describe it. We can also hold down the N key. I can tap the N key and that'll turn on a number here. You can say, oh, client, let me see number 1. So you can take and you can double click on that image. That will bring that up to full screen. The client says, oh, let me see all 4 of those. You don't have to go back here and click this T key and reselect these images because you may have images selected from all over. All you have to do is go up here. We've got what's called Compare Image Snapshot. Click the 4, and that one brings back those particular 4 images. So the client says, oh, this one's not good. Tap the 3 key. My 4 changed to a 3. I've now got those. And then if I go back here and I select this, 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 and this one, let's bring them up. Okay, so now there's that particular set of images. I want to go back to those last 3 I had. I can click on that. This Compare Image Snapshot is really useful. There's a whole video out there on that. So that allows us to be able to compare images when I get in that final culling stage. All right, so here's all of our images. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and first of all, we are going to look at the images. I have all of my yes group images. What I will usually do at this point in the game is I'm going to go through and I'm just going to simply take all these images in the yes group and tell the client I want you to sit back and relax. Let's go ahead and look at our final selections. And I click the slideshow button. So what we're doing at that point is I'm going back, I'm showing that slideshow, and I want it to go into somewhat of, I want to take them from an analytical mode back into an emotional tone, just to be able to see those images again. Then from there, we're going to start asking them, which of the clients, which of these images do you envision, you know, being displayed in your home as a wall portrait? So at this point, they're going to take, and I'll probably have the thumbnails up on the screen, and they're going to start asking some questions here. You know, what are their favorites on there? So maybe this particular image is a favorite. So now we can actually go through and we can start showing this image actual size or putting it into a room. Now, we can go into what's called Send My Rooms, which is kind of a whole other story. It's the ability to be able to get client rooms very easily, but there's some preset rooms right in ProSelect. So we can take and we can bring an image in here, and all I have to do is simply drag that image out on the wall, and we can take and we can show that image up on the wall. If I want to add additional images to start building out a wall grouping, we can go ahead and we can do that very easily. So let's find another one over here that maybe we like this particular image to balance out. So we can put these images on the wall. I can multi-select images here, and then I just tap my down arrow key. You can see how I can move down those images a little bit smaller. I want to make this one up just a little bit larger. And you can take it, if we select them all, we can move them all around as a group on the wall. Want to go ahead and I want to start framing these images. All I have to do is I just draw a marquee, select the images, and then go over here and go to my frames. So you can see now I have all of the Digitalab frames in here. Now I don't quite know what's these frames here, the frames very well to directly go to anything. So
we've got time to talk you through all 136. So
yeah. Okay, so let's say something like this one, that what we can do is we can go ahead on here, and we've got all the frames, and the client can take and we can look at this to be able to get an idea of what this one's going to look like. Maybe decide that I want to change the format here. Notice how when it's going through my print paper sizes, these are all set up in there. You can modify them. But on this one, you can say, you know what, I like the shorter format on here. This is a 2430 down here, but I need to adjust it within the frame a little bit. I just simply hold my Option key, and I can take and I can pull that and move that around. That Alt Option key will do that. If I need to crop an image, I can tap the C key or click on the scissors here. It goes out into my crop tool, and then I can take and do any cropping modifications. Tap my C key again. It takes me directly back to my room. So we're going to go through here. I want to take and I want to go through and I'm going to order these portraits. Client says, yep, I love that. Let's go ahead and we can do that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go to our shopping cart. Well, what we've got here is I have 3 different images that are loaded in here. So what I need to do is I'm going to click on each one of them. Here I've got a 24 by 30 in here, and it's got the, there is no price in here because we didn't set up any pricing ahead of time, but that's okay. We can go ahead and go in here and say that this one is going to be $1,200 for this one. My frame is going to be, I don't know, what's the frame like this, Alex? $300 for a retail price, something like that. And I can do a quick add. Then I go to here, and this 16 by 24s, these are both the same. They're both 16 by 24. So I can go in here and we can go ahead and that those are going to be $5.99 each. Because I can't put the frame price in there for both at the same time. So let's go $1.99 on that, a quick add, and then $5.99. $1.99 add to order. Okay, so now I'm starting to build up my invoice for my client. And here, all right, today, right, okay.
And you can add in regional tax variants and stuff like that.
Right, absolutely. You can set up all the taxes. Well, my point is here is that you don't have to go through and take and set everything up ahead of time, that you can start selling with this. But the key here is that we need to have everything ordered in ProSelect to be able to take and to be able to go into production, which I'm going to go into in just a little bit. So we've got this particular one here. Now we're going to go back here. We can go to our working with layouts. Let's look at some other options down here. So I'm going to go in and let's take a look at our multi-aperture frames here. We can go ahead and select this one as a 24-24. So we can go here. Let's pull an image. Let's pull some other images. I can expand this out a little bit more. Let's put one Taylor down here. We'll put Alex out here. Maybe this one here, and the doggy over here. Again, I can use that Alt Option key to be able to take and move the images around within the frame here. If I want to go into the cropping mode, I hit my C key. This image is selected. Notice the cyan line. I can then use the up and down arrow keys on my keyboard or the plus and minus tools over here to be able to zoom that image in and out to be able to get the ordering. Now, it's important that you get the ordering all correct right at this particular point because this is how that image will actually get ordered in ProSelect. I'm still in the crop mode. You can see the scissors. Tap my C key. That takes me out. I am all about shortcuts. I want to take and I want to apply a matte down here. So I'm going to go to my single mount here, and you can take and you can see we're now taking and applying on the different options that they have available for mats. You can create your own mats. For those of you in the US, different suppliers have different things that are available. Okay, so there's a double mat. That looks nice. Let's go ahead here and we're going to go ahead and pick a frame. If I want to go back to that last frame we used, it's right at the top of my recent ones, or I can go here and I'm just going to go ahead and we'll put a distressed black on that frame. Client looks nice. Client wants to see that actual size. All I have to do is click my select size view, and that now shows that image actual size. You have to, of course, calibrate in your preferences here in ProSelect before you start. Just measure this line on your monitor projector, and when you type in the length of that line, everything will be calibrated. If I want to put that particular one into a room, what we're going to do is all I have to do is, again, touch my T key here, go to my thumbnail view, and I can choose a different room that we want to show in here. Let's just go here, and then we're going to just drop this in. The client can see how that's going to look on the wall in a sized type of environment. Client says, yep, I like it. That's great. We're going to go ahead here, and we're going to click this. There's no price on this particular one, so all I have to do is go in. I'm going to put in a custom product. Right here, this is telling me that it's going to be a traditional matted layout. And then it's going to have, we got the 8x8 prints in here, so that this total product, we're going to put this in here at $8.99. That the inner mat, we're going to do, that's going to be included for that particular price, and the frame will be included there. So we're going to go ahead and click that. And so notice when I put in a single price and I zero out the rest of them, it shows me that my mat and frame are included. So we've got all of those as part of the order. Let's go back to our layouts. Let's look at some other options here in the layouts.
Just got to say, sorry, that's really useful for with our products, because like when we were discussing before, our prints and mats are included in the frame price, so it makes it dead easy for the photographer just to cycle through that dead quick with the ordering.
Exactly, exactly. So let's say that we want to go through and we want to take, and maybe now we want to go through and want to do an image box. So we're going to go through and want to do an image box here. This is these have to be from 3XM, so I can go here and we can grab an image box. This is just a photograph. We brought it into a template as a PSD overlay. So I want to be able to show what the client's going to look like. I can simply just drop this one in there. The client get an idea of what the image box looks like. So we're going to go through. I want to add this to my shopping cart. And so in this particular case, we've got a premium wood box. There's, again, no price. I just create a custom product right here on the fly. And this is going to be here. I'll go down here, and if I got something for image box right there, we've got an image box. And so this image box is going to be $22.99. And we're going to go ahead and click add that to the order and click close. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to go, all right, well, I need to have all the mats for that particular image box. So I've got mats here. So that was an 11 by 14 image box. So what we've got here is I've got various different mats. I got 11 by 14 with an 8 by 10, 10 by 10, 8 by 12. Let's use the 7 by 10 mats here. I'm going to turn my smart filtering on. I'm going to go to one opening auto create, and I'm going to go over here, and we're going to have, you can see I've got all of these images here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through, I'm going to select the first one and go down here and select all of these images, and all I'm going to do is simply click drag here, and I'm going to, oops, okay, that's fine. I meant to put it in the other one. That's not a problem. So let's go back up here, and you can see all of it. It grabbed all of my image box mats right there. Let me just do I've got them all. I'm just going to simply click delete because I grabbed the wrong ones. I'm going to go ahead and pull it into this particular one for my 7 by 10s. All right, and there is everything populated for that. I want to go ahead and I'm going to use a image box mat. I want the white image box mat right there. Everything is selected. And now the client can see exactly what it's going to look like. So if I can flip through all of these, and then we can go through if we need to do any cropping, go back here and say, okay, well, I need to crop this one just oops, hit the C key, and then I can take and I can move this around. Now notice that cyan line around here, that in the crop mode, that's the matte overlap that we know that when we put them into a traditional matte, we're going to have a little bit of overlap in there. ProSelect automatically accounts for all of that. So here's all of our mattes. And so what's going to happen with these is we're going to go through and I'm just going to select all of the mattes. Hold my shift key, that selects all of them. Go to my shopping cart here. And now we are going to take and we are going to do a quick add. These are going to be added as a 0 because I put in the price with for everything, and you just select them all at once over here. Price is 0, quick add. Yes, I want to continue.
So that price was all included in the box, wasn't it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Now it's, okay, if I hold my option key, there you go. I held my option key and then it quit asking me questions there. And so now I've got all of my image box mattes are now added to this particular job. So that's all ready to go. All right, well, the last thing that I've got to do, I'm going to go back to my working with images, is we all know that we all live in the age of digital files. So we usually have to take and end up providing some files to our customer. So what we can do is if I'm right here and I've got my images, we can go down here and I can actually set filtering to ordered images. And so what it will do, all these images were already ordered. You can see a shopping cart icon on it. But if I had images that were mixed with non-ordered and ordered, I could filter to just my ordered images. I can do a Command A here, and then I can go to my shopping cart and I can say, okay, I want to take, and I'm going to have a set of low resolution files. And we're going to go ahead and order those. Those are actually included that because they already purchased one on each one of those. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick add and click close. All right, at this time, all of our ordering is done. I want to print out an invoice for my client. So I'm going to go to orders, review orders, and we're going to go ahead and click print order. So this is going to give us, we got various different parameters here for the order report. So I'm going to go ahead and click print order report. This is going to have a report logo. Mine is not set up here because I think I went to default. We'll see. But it's easy for you to change and put a different logo in here. So let's take a look at that. I didn't really mean to print it. You can hear my printer going now. We are going to go to print.
You've got Memento for the night, yeah.
Open in preview. Hang it. Okay. All right. So here's our order report. Okay, this is our sample logo in here, but you can see we've got the images with the frames. You can see our multi-aperture mount here. Here's our image box, our pricing, then all of the individual mattes that show up for the image box. And here's all of our digital files. Here's our total order. This one tells us a summary of what's ordered. And then it's got in here a order agreement. Just get with your lawyer, but there's some preset agreements that are in there that you can go, oh, you know what? I should have had this with, I've got digital files on that one. So I need to do something just a little bit different. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to tell it, well, I want an order agreement with social media files. So we're going to go ahead and click print report, and you can set these up, but those are all the default ones that are in there. So now I can take and have this whole order report here. And what's changed down here, as you can see now here, we've got our standard order agreement. If I had put the client's name into the order details, that would all appear on here. But here now we've got a thing that says they understand what they can use those social media files for. So we can have our contract information all built right into the order. All right. Order's done, everything's approved, customer's gone home, everything is signed. So now at this point, what we do is we're going to go to, of course, we would save our file. So I'm just going to save my album. We're assuming we're going to come back to it a few days later and start to work on it. We're going to go to production, produce high-res images, and this gives us a map of everything that needs to be done on the job. So you can see these are all of my individual images for the image box. This dialog here, this shows the cropping. Again, notice the cyan line. This gives me a place to be able to take and verify where the matte overlap. When I go through and I want to retouch any image, all I have to do is I'm simply going to go out here and I would click Open RAWs in Photoshop. So now when I open the image, the raw file in Photoshop, just open it up in Adobe Camera Raw, and it would take and it would give me any of my raw file processing data based on XMP, because I set my Lightroom up to export to XMP. So I could take and process this image, go ahead and click Open, and I could bring that image up into Photoshop and retouch the file. So I would do whatever retouching, enhancement, or anything that I want to do. When I save this file, I'm going to save this file as a TIFF or a PSD file, and I am not going to crop it. One thing we're going to do is we're never going to crop a file in Lightroom before we bring them in, and we're never going to crop a file here. You can always work with your full frame images. So I would go through and retouch that image, then save it as a, again, a PSD or a TIFF file. Now, let's say you don't do your own retouching. We can go to Production, Export Production Package. And at this point, I can tell it to go through and create a production package. And what this will do is I can take and tell it to grab any images for, I didn't have anything for a book in here, but all my digital file, raw files for digital files, my print images. I want a production report in there and a text format that has any details. If I had any notes on these files, that would export, and I can click Export, and it'll pull all those raw files, put those into a separate folder in my source file that I can take and upload that to my retoucher, and they would retouch those files. So let's assume that that's what they did, is the retoucher went back through and then they retouched all of those files here. So now what's going to happen is those retouch files, we get them back from the customer. So I'm going to go back and get to my job folder. Here's my Taylor and Alex job folder. So what I've got here is I have, notice I've got some PSA files that are here. And then you can see I've got my raw files, my JPEG files. Now, I would drop those PSD files back in here. I already have some PSD files in here. So the files are now already back in. You're going to drop them in. Same place, same location. We only have one folder here. There's one folder. This should not be here. Production folder, that was just something else. But here is all those files. So we're dropping those PSD or TIFF files back in that same original job folder. So now what I have to do is I'm going to go back into my production, produce high-res images, and I'm going to tell it to relink and reload all edited images. So what it's doing here, in this case, it told me, well, you applied pre-touching. Do you want to apply that pre-touching when it's run through production? I'm going to tell it to remove it because I already did the full retouching on the images, or my retoucher did it. I know I'm going fast, but we either would outsource those images and drop them back in, or open them up in Photoshop, retouch them, and save them as a PSD or TIFF file. So now what's happening is it's going through and it's relinking everything to all of these final files that are ready to update.
It's so great for the photographer's workflow, because it means that they're not focusing on editing or sending edits out there that they're not going to be selling. So you literally do your basic edits beforehand, get the customer to choose everything, and then you're not wasting time sitting down piling through edits, you know.
I know, that's exactly it. You want to put your effort, into the back end. All right, now my files, okay, they did not update. I got to figure out a way to get them to update here. And the reason they did not is because I created a new album. Let's try this here. Okay, the reason my images are not updating is because it's looking for a newer file, a newer modified file date, okay? Because I just created a new set of JPEGs today. It's older than the PSD ones. Okay, so mine, I apologize, mine aren't retouching and I can't quickly get them to relink. I can't do a force relink on it because, again, the file date, the modified dates are off. So you're going to have to bear with me and just kind of pretend in a normal, this is really an unusual circulate, where I went backwards on a job. So anyway, so what happens, so we're going to assume that all of our images are reloaded in here. In this production module, what happens is it'll show a little arrow here, and then these would all change to PSDs in the true format or TIFFs, depending on what you use. So what I want to do is I actually go through and I want to run the production, get it ready to send off to Alex so that they can produce this order. So I'm going to go ahead and click check all, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to make high resolution images. So what it's doing is it's going through and it's sending everything out into Photoshop, and it's processing all of my files in here, and it's going to make finished files to send to the lab. It's going to make JPEG files. They'll be sized at 300 ppi. These are all in my production settings. You can change all that if you want. It's going to put everything into folders by size so that they're all ready to go, that can be uploaded to the lab. And do you use ROSE, Alex, or what do you use?
Not ROSE, it's an online upload system. But I mean, okay, when you were talking about before, you were saying you can alter the color management with it as well. Is that right? So you have these set up in sRGB, were you saying?
Right. Yeah, this will adopt all of your Photoshop color settings.
Excellent.
As it's running this. So yep, everything is all color managed all the way through the whole system. All right, so it's going to take just a moment it's going through and it's processing all these files. I am really fast at Photoshop, but I can't work as fast as this works for me. All right, Alex, fire a question off real quick while this is running.
Let's go. So basically, we've got a few that's coming already. Does the same sort of linking that you have with Lightroom work with Adobe Bridge?
The problem with Adobe Bridge is that when you have all your files in Adobe Bridge, you can't export your file. There's not an export plugin from there. The thing is, if you export your files from Bridge, whenever you export the files, even if you tell it to export to the same folder, it's going to make a folder that says JPEG underneath your main folder. So you'll have all your raw files, then you will have a folder that says JPEGs. If you're going to use Bridge, you need to then open up that JPEG file, select all those images, bring them up to the main level, then import that into ProSelect. Okay, so I encourage you to, that Lightroom and Bridge, the Adobe Camera Raw interface and Lightroom, they're exactly the same. They're completely the same. It's just Lightroom has got more of an indexing thing. So, but the Lightroom plugin with it, it works. It makes it a really seamless workflow.
Yeah.
So there's that. All right. So run my single image print. So now I'm going to go over here. This is okay. This image box, I don't need to process this because that was just kind of a show thing. I've got all my digital files over here. So I'm going to go my digital files and I'm going to go, you know what? We need to have a watermark on here. And I had it set up my preferences to apply a social media watermark on here. You can see this is just a sample one that's applied. So if you can see this stamp right here is then telling it that that's applied to all these images. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to make high-res images, and it's going to process all my digital files for me. All right, Alex, next question.
So we've got one here. Anita Watkins, can you remove some of the frames from your set once you've imported them?
Can I remove some of the what?
The frames from a set once you've imported them in.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you can go back and you can manage any of the frames at all. I can show you that in just a second. This is running. What it's doing now, it's processing all of the digital files for the job. I hope this is making sense to people. I know it's really fast.
We've got loads of positive comments. I mean, a lot of people saying they're going to rewatch it 30 odd times to get everything in there. But I mean, they can do that on our YouTube channel. We've got some really good questions on Facebook as well. Basically, we've had a lot of people asking about the slideshows and whether they can be exported as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, the key, there's just a few keys that you have to do, that you want to do. And the thing that I will tell you is just trust me and do as I say. Okay. there is so much clutter out there, and everybody is a flippin' expert out there anymore. Okay. And I will tell you that there is no one in the world that knows more about this program than I do. Okay. And I know workflow inside and out, as I've worked in many of the, mostly US and Canada for consulting clients, but the processes, that it has to be simple. The key is those JPEGs and RAW files, you're going to work always in the same folder. ProSelect will build folders for us as we need additional folders, okay? So we have to do that. When you retouch your file, save them as either a PSD or a TIFF file, okay? I would usually flatten the files and save them as a TIFF. This one I happen to do PSDs on because I did some other kind of stuff on them because it was my own kid, and so I kept the layers, but I usually don't do that on a regular client job. So you can go through here and just follow those basic processes. Now, let me show you. I'll come back to your questions in a second, Alex. So if I go out here and I'm going to look at the file, see, ProSelect now created another folder for me here. Okay, this folder is output images. So here's every one of the files that are now ready for all of the 7x10s now. Okay, here's every one of the 7x10s now for the image box. Each one of these is cropped exactly as what we showed the customer. This would have the retouch file would be in there. Again, I didn't get my one relinked to it. If we go back here and look, okay, this folder here, this is the 8x8s. Okay, these are those 8x8s. This file is ready to go right to the lab. So you're just gonna take that and order one each 8x8 for the lab. These ones are wall portraits. These are 16x24s. We had 2 of those. And then over here, we had, okay, this is our set of all of our digital files. Okay, these were 1200 by 1200 was a long pixel dimension. All of our watermarking is on these files, and they're all in a complete set, a folder ready to burn to a flash drive or whatever you're going to do it to give to the lab. If I go back over to ProSelect, I can go in here and I can go to File. Oops, I'm in Photoshop. Let's go back to ProSelect. Go ahead and close this here. If I go to File, Print, Ordered Maths Report, let's go ahead and we're going to click this here, PDF, open in preview. Okay, here's here's what we ordered that had mats on it. Okay, so this one shows this has got all the mats for the image mats. Now, obviously, you know, they're going to be a stock mat, but if you're taking, but this has all the stuff that if you were to design something custom here in ProSelect, and then you do custom work, Alex?
We do.
He hesitated. But
It's we've been talking about it in the lab today. No, we do. Normally, a different sort of service times involved and different. Right.
Okay, different service. But what we've got right here is you could design any template in the template editor in ProSelect and all you have to do is print this thing off, send this PDF file to Alex, and we've already done the math. You have all of your setup in here, so you can plug it right into your cutting machine or however you guys do it, and you would take and you have everything is all right there, that with all the colors, the mats that are used.
It's so helpful from the lab's point of view.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You've also got, we can go in here, and if you've got a production images report, so you want to take, and this shows what, if you're going to send stuff off to a retoucher, there's a text file that was in that production report. But here, if you had any notes associated with these images, okay, this is a summary of shows what all needs to get ordered on these files and things here. So lots of different things in there. All right, now back to your questions. We have a slideshow. We asked about the slideshow.
Yep.
If I want to take the slideshow, I simply would go to File, and I would go to Export, Slideshow Movie, and then here you can select the different formats. So you're going to use, do you guys use US or European formats? I don't know if.
For what, the HD TVs and stuff like that? Yeah, it would normally be a European format.
Okay, so you could just go here. I want a 1080 one here. If you wanted to apply a watermark on the one, you could put a watermark on there. If you want to just output one with watermarks, you could do that and just export it, and it'll render out that whole movie for you. On a 4K one, click it, export it, done. It'll take a few minutes for that thing to actually export.
Fantastic.
Okay, now your frame. Somebody asked me about the frame, so I'm going to go to I'm going to go to Resources. set up frames. So what we can do here is if I come over here and say, you know what, I don't want to use any of these metal frames that are in here, I can just simply select that group, click trash it, boom, and that moved out that got rid of all those frames now out of my ProSelect. If you wanted to go through and I wanted to edit frames on an individual basis, I can go in here, bang, I want to get rid of those, just click delete, and they're out of there. Okay? But I would never do that to any of Alex's frames.
Exactly. I mean, one of the great things that you know, both yourself and Carol went through with me was that you can set up your favorites as like a studio favorites pack. So when you're working through a session with a client, it's really quick to just, you know, you can fire them off straight away. You know exactly what you're going to.
Yep, exactly. All right, more questions.
So with the invoices that you showed us in the ordering section, is there somewhere where you can quickly show us how to set the invoices up in terms of adding your own logo in? So is there any studio management software that plugs into that as well?
Okay, so resources, set up report logos, and then you can go here. And what you can do is that on this report logo, it's what you want to do is you want to create a file about a 1 inch by 8.5 or something. You can actually take it if you go here and you click this, and then here's the sample one. If you click this little button right here, now this one's open in Photoshop. Okay, this is a PSD one. It gives you a template, and then you can just create a new layer, build whatever you want, save it, import it back in, and then you'll be ready to go. And it's got all the sizing and everything is all set for you. There's a video out there on adding report logos on the Time Exposure website.
Excellent stuff. We've got a question in from Ed quickly as well. Ron, how do you show your pricing to your clients in ProSelect?
How do I show my price to my clients in ProSelect? I don't show them the pricing in ProSelect. The way that I would always do it is that I always had a menu book printed that had all the pricing in the book. And so when the client came into the studio, when we started the ordering session, I would go through all of the images. We'd do all the initial editing on the images or culling of the images, getting down to the yes group. Then at that point, I would take, and my presentation room was a large, like a living room setup, big projection screen in there. Clients are sitting on a sofa. I would sit down, present this, like a leather bound menu like you'd get in a fine restaurant that has all the pricing in there. I would give them a brief overview of things. I would show them, hand them a canvas, show them some different products of metal, whatever, so they can touch it, feel it. I would point to the prices. And then when I bring an image up on the screen, and when I would show an image like this, I would put this image up on the screen. There it is, actual size. That's at 2430. And I would say, you can see that one's showing in your on our portrait list there. That's the price, and that is the fourth one down on the left. Excellent. And let them take and just read it. Okay. What we want to do is that when we're working in ProSelect, so we can take, I have my desktop set up in here, and whether PC or Mac, they're just similar. If I go to my display preferences here on arrangement, you can see I have my mirroring turned off. This is my main screen, my iMac screen. Then I have another 32-inch monitor over to my left here. So what I can do right now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second. Actually, what I would do is I would take, when I click this button right here, okay, what this did is this sent that an image to my secondary screen. And I will stop the sharing on here. And I'm going to share my secondary screen. So now what happens, you can see the secondary screen. That's what the client sees. And when you're doing a virtual ordering session, you go out and you do the same thing. You turn on your second monitor or your projector, and the client doesn't ever see all the tools. So when I'm working here in ProSelect, that I can go through here, I actually have right now, I can put an invoice. I have an invoice up on my screen. I'm going to go back. I'm going to stop this share. And now I'm going to go back here and share my main desktop again. And go back to ProSelect, and right there, see, this is that's what I'm looking at. My client was only looking at that screen with just the image out there. I mean, how cool is that? So that I don't want to put big numbers up on a big screen. I want them all right here. Okay. There's videos out there on setting up your mirroring. There's also, you want to keep in mind that we have the ProSelect user group, the Facebook group out here. You got how-to questions, come out and just ask the questions. We got a lot of power users. I monitor this thing all the time, too much. Okay. All right. So question.
Yep, just a quick one here from Anita. She currently uses Wave for her invoices. How do you accept payment for these invoices created in ProSelect?
Okay, so what's going to happen with this is what you can do is that I'm not familiar with that management software, but what happens here is that we can take, I would simply just go in here, you would process your payment however you would normally put in the payment. And so here I can go in here and say, okay, the client's going to take and make a credit card payment. They're going to do 50% of the order. I can just calculate that right here. And so that's going to give me 3,000. This is how much I'm going to run today. On there, I can click save, click close, and now my balance is updated. So you can put that in right here. Now, there's several studio management programs out there that will accept ProSelect data, Light Blue, Tave, Shootproof, 17 Hats, Studio Plus. You would simply click export order, and then it would take and it would export out an XML file that their software can grab and pull in there. So your software, Anita, may have the ability to be able to bring in an XML file. That's something you'd have to talk to. Just build up an invoice, export the file out, and send it to them and ask if there's any way I can get this into your management software. ProSelect does have a direct integration with Studio Cloud. So, for example, if I was to take and link this job to Studio Cloud, it's a two-way integration. So if I go to File, Link to Studio Cloud, I would go out here and type in the client name, click search, and say, okay, here it is. There's Taylor, find events for this client. Now I'm just gonna grab video session here, click link to Studio Cloud. All right, so here it is, and then it's telling me, okay, that Taylor already paid $100 when she booked the session. Yeah, right, like I got $100 out of my own kid, huh? All right, so then I would just simply click link and import invoice, and what it will do is it would take and it's going to bring in, it would bring in all that, it'll bring in that $100 payment and everything in there. This job is now linked. So when I would take and if I would go here, and then when I would click my export order, I need to make a change, not export it, but if I would tell it to export the order, it would send all this data into Studio Cloud. That's a great integration. I love Studio Cloud. They're a really great program. They even got a free version if you're doing a very low volume of things out there. Okay, next.
Fantastic. We've got a question here from Derry Vickers. Thank you very much, guys. Very helpful. Can we prepare a few different wall art collection options with room views before the ordering session and keep them in a different folder?
Okay, now absolutely. So what we can do here is we can go in here and we can take and we can choose to, so I can go in here and say we're going to do some layout. So I want to go here and I'm going to go to my wall group collections, and let's go to wall groupings here. I've got my smart filtering that's turned on. That's why I'm not seeing anything. So if you don't see something, go, oh, wait a minute, what's going on? So I'm going to go here, turn off my smart filtering. Goes off. All right, so now what I can do is I'm going to take and say, okay, I'm just going to grab some images here and I'm just going to pull them in here. So, okay, there's one wall grouping here. Then we're going to go down here and let's find something else. Let's do another wall grouping with these three images here. All right, then we're going to go down here a little further on the list. And then we can take and let's go down here and add a couple more. Put that in there. All right. So what we've got now is I've got these particular layouts. So we can go through and we can take and we can change. I wasn't real conscious of left or right, on images, what was going in there. But if I've got it, okay, that one looks okay. I'm going to tap my right arrow key, go on to this next layout group, go over here, so and I want to have that image over there, so I can swap that image to there, and maybe we want to take and use this image over here. And then again, hold the Alt key, go in, if I hit the C key, crop. Okay, then I tap my right arrow key, so here's another layout. All right, so That one's good. That's all fine and good. Okay, so now what I can do is, now in the Pro version, you can have multiple rooms going here. In the basic version, you can only have one room at a time showing. So what I want to do is I'm going to go out here, and let's say that we had a client send us images through Send My Rooms. Are we doing okay on time, Alex? I know I'm kind of going on, but I guess people are still hanging, so we good?
Absolutely, yeah, no, they're loving it.
See, you guys thought I was kidding when I said 4.5 hours. What I'll do is I'll give you 4.5 hours in about 1.5 to 2 hours. How's that? All right. So what I'm going to do is I can go to my resources, and I'm going to go to set up rooms. And if somebody has uploaded images from Send My Rooms, I go out to my Send My Rooms, tell it to search for all viewings. These are various rooms sent in from clients. And I click search here. I got to see what I've got sitting out here on the server. The Send My, I didn't really talk about Send My Rooms, but it is really cool. It is like the total bomb. Okay, so here's a couple images there. I'm just going to go ahead and click check all. I'm going to click download rooms, and that brought them in. So this is where the client just uploaded rooms from their mobile phone, works on either Android or iPhone. So they taped a piece of paper on the wall. We're going to bring this little ruler up over here. Notice how I made this whole screen much bigger. That is key. You want to get it as big as possible. So I bring this thing up here. I align this ruler on here. This is just, what is this, A2, A4? I don't know. We don't use the term over here, but it's an 11-inch piece of paper. Yep. So I type in 11 inches. It brought in the name that the client selected when they brought that one in. Here's this one. Bring this one up here. Align that edge to there.
US letter for you guys?
Yeah, just the letter size. Yeah, just US letter. Okay, 11 inches here. Save ones, close. So now what I've got, I have library rooms, which are available in all jobs. Album rooms are exclusive to the job. So now I can take and I can just go ahead and I can take and I can pull this one here so the client can see this one. I can tap my T key, go back to my thumbnail view, and then I want to just drop this one in here. Oops, did I drop that in there? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, I didn't line my target point. And then this last one is going to go here. Pull this over here. So that shows that layout. This one shows this particular layout. So now what you can do is now we can take and, okay, let me show you what happened on that room. Okay, the reason that that did that, so I go to my resources, I go to set up rooms here. My album, and this was the living room. Okay, see this is my target point. I didn't move it to where I wanted it to appear on the wall. So I'm going to tell it to save changes. So now if I take and if I just drag this and drop this on this room, notice how it went in the right place now. That's why it was going all over the place. So anyway, so I've got these various room images available here. You can see, you can just show the client various different options. All right. If I was to go into the slideshow now, what will happen in the slideshow when I've got these rooms here, you can see I now have all these different layouts are now showing up in the slideshow. Okay. And then here's my rooms. So those would all appear in the slideshow. So if you wanted to take, when you're doing your slideshow, if you wanted to intermix rooms amongst other things, I can just tell it to expand them out. It pulls them all out into individual slides. You know, this one's a duplicate. So I just hit the D key, select it, you know, and I want to put this room up here. And I'm going to show this room over here, whatever. You can do that. And then you can intersperse things within your slideshow that way. I take a long time to answer a question, don't I?
Just got one quick one, actually, Ron, if that's all right, which was connected to what you were doing there. Sue's asked, how do you zoom in at the end of the ruler?
That's automatically does that in the 2020 version.
Fab.
Yeah, that's a new feature. Yep.
Super handy.
Yep.
Fantastic. Just one last one from Sharon, who we did the live with the other week. Says,
I'm not answering her questions.
Am I right in thinking you can transfer the ProSelect data from one computer to the other, including layouts and frames?
Right, exactly. So what happens with that is that ProSelect has a PSA file. So go back out here and get to my job folder here. Again, you can see I happen to have several in this particular because I've been using this for some demos, but this is the PSA file is right here. So what you can do is you can take and you can actually take and you can move that file to a different computer. Ideally, the ideal setup is that you would have it sitting on your main storage device, have your computers in your studio or network, your home network, then you just reach across your network and stream it across your network. But I realize not everybody has that. So you could just take and you can move it across. The key, another key to the kingdom is that we always want to take and you want to originate your ProSelect jobs on your production machines. This is where a lot of people get confused because they think of ProSelect as a sales type of thing, which it is, but we want to originate it on our production machines. And that way, all of our files, all of our source files, Lightroom, everything all stays linked. And so then I just take the PSA file to my other machine, use it on my other machine, and then if I need to, if I had to move the location, then I would bring it back and replace the one on my production machine. But everything is here. But by having all these files linked, I mean, I can just do a Command T from any file, and I can get to, there's the file in Photoshop. I open that particular file in Photoshop. I do a, come over here and I can do a Command Y, and I can open up the image. There it came up in Adobe Camera Raw. I have Adobe Camera Raw set as my raw file editor, even though I use Lightroom on the front end. But I can also go through, if I do this, hold my Option key while doing the Command Y. Okay, now what it's doing, it found that image in Lightroom and brought it up in Lightroom. But all of this has to, ProSelect has to know where everything is, but as long as you do the setup exactly what I showed you, everything will stay in sync. And it is just this beautiful, seamless workflow. You get it down and you'll be amazed. You'll go, wow, how in the world did I ever do this without it? Because people are all over the place. All right.
That's it. I think that's it for the questions, actually, Ron.
That's all the questions. That's, I guess I answered everything. That must be an amazing presenter to be able to take and get that few questions.
I mean, what I was going to say is, if obviously people are going to rewatch this, and if there's something that they want to go through and ask again, like you mentioned before, that Facebook group that you guys have is incredibly helpful. Not only yourself monitored, but other users that utilize the software and use it with great effect are really free with the time and advice as well. What I've noticed is it's a very, very helpful group.
Oh yeah, it's, you know, a lot of activity out there, and so, you know, it's a great place to answer questions. You know, when you got kind of what we do is, if you have a technical problem, you want to go to time exposure support. Okay, you get an error code on something, or there's a problem with something, support's the place you want to go. But if your question usually starts with how to, or how do I do whatever, you can, you want to go out to Facebook group. If you go out to Facebook group, there's also a whole series of popular topics out here. So like here's ones, you know, on slideshows, invoices, price lists, matte designs, you know, show more. We've indexed a lot of the stuff out here. It's kind of an ongoing job. Not everything is indexed. But, you know, how the mirror display area, which is how I showed you how we're using that, discussions on that. And then a lot of these have got video links out there too. So people can.
I think the mirror link, what you touched on for virtual viewings, is going to be really helpful, because I know a lot of people have been using that over here in the last month, and that's going to be huge for them.
Exactly. So one of the things, if you go out to the time exposure website here and you go to the training page and go to the training movies here, this is where we've got all these different movies that are out here. And so there's a whole section here on running virtual in-person sales with ProSelect. Okay, there's 3 videos out here, and they're very detailed and telling you exactly what to do, how to set up Zoom to do it, and tips for working through this. And because we're having to stream everything, in certain things, like when you get into ProSelect in the latest version here, we even put slideshow styles in here that you can see. I've got contemporary gray VIPs. Okay, virtual IPS. So when you take, and if you choose that, what we've done is to put together things that will take and optimize the slide times and the dissolve times and the different ways that it's got to stream, so it'll maximize, so it'll minimize the potential for problems and lagging when it's going across the internet. So done a lot of that for you.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, like I say, there's bound to be more questions come. We'll filter them through as we can, but I'm sure there's plenty more scope for another live further down the line. I know that the sort of ProSelect user group here in the UK is, again, people like Sharon and Emma, who we were talking to the other week, are going to be doing lots of lives with Digitalab, so I can't wait for that. And I just want to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you, Ron. Really, really appreciate your time coming on here.
Can I do one more thing?
Go for it. Yeah, shoot.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm big on doing it. I want to show, because I want to show you, but people just don't understand the power. They do so much stuff in Photoshop. So let's say that you want to take and you want to create your own multi-aperture type of thing. So I'm going to go to templates. I'm going to go to template manager, and this is where you can take and you can create different groupings and different things here. So I'm just going to create a new category that says run. I want it available for layouts, and then I'm going to do here, we're going to call this is test. So I'm going to create a new template and click edit template. So let's go here and say that I want to do something. Okay, this is a 16 by 20. That's fine. I want to put a border of 1 inch around here. So I'm going to go in, we're going to put in a 1 inch border. I'm just dragging these up from these corners in here. All right, so now I'm going to take this image here, and I want to do 3 images across the top. So I just click 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to select all 3 of those images, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to distribute it this way. Oh, they're touching. I don't want to have them touching. I want a little bit of a gap between these images. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say, okay, I want to have a 1/4 inch gap between these images. I'm going to turn this on, turn on my sticking over here, and then I'm going to click this distribute again. And so now I've taken and I've got, notice it automatically figured out the sizing for these 3 images to go across the top here. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to bring this up here. Then I want all these images to align up to that top point. And so I can just click this, and now the images are going to align to the top. So now I'm going to select another image here, and I'm going to click 1, 2, and I'm going to grab these 2 images down here, and I'm going to put them across down here. I'm going to select these 2, and let's distribute these 2 across the bottom. Let's pull this down to here, and I'm going to go here, and oops, come up here, select these 2, and then I'm going to tell it to fill down the bottom. Okay, there's my template. I just created a multi-aperture template on there, and we're going to call this run. Click Save Changes and close. All right, so now what I'm going to do is go out here, go to my group for run, and we're going to go over here is the template. So now what I can do is I can start bringing in images into this particular layout. So if I come in here, let's drop this one in here, Taylor in here. There's that rotten kid who's chasing my daughter. There he is. All right, go over here and decide I want to switch these 2 around, move this one over, that one down. Okay, all right, so we've got this here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply a matte design. So I'm going to put a composite style on this particular one. Okay, I goofed off and made this a traditional matted layout. I want to make it a composite layout. So I can click right here. I change it to a composite style. That means it's going to render everything. So let's go here. I'm just going to do a gray matte with a key line white. I'm going to go ahead and click place the order on this thing, order it, and go in here and put the price of $9.99, click add to order, close. All right, now I'm going to go to my production, and I'm going to go to produce high-res images. Go to my composites tab, and here is this in here. So now again, I could go through and I could open up these images, retouch the individual images. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and click on here, and because I have one item selected, I'm going to tell it to keep it open in Photoshop, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to make high-res images. So now it's going out and it's going into Photoshop and getting ready to process that file. It's building everything up for me all automatically. Now, if you were to do this in Photoshop, how long would it take and build this thing?
From experience,
be flat and straight and ready to go. I mean, you can do this. You build books in here. You've got album pages. There's the whole book builder. We just put like 160 new album page designs for doing albums and books, and they all render the exact same way. It's pretty phenomenal. But the integration with this stuff, there's a learning curve. There's no doubt about it. But just get in there and you just start doing it, you know. But you have to place your orders in ProSelect and then get it into that production queue. These are all things. This, what I just showed you right here was, you know, how quickly I built that whole thing up. It takes the pro version. You can't do that in the basic version. You can build a template, but then you got to go in Photoshop and manually do it. The pro version has got all of the production capabilities in there, and that's what saves you all the time. About the time you've done 2 of these things manually, you could have paid for the pro version. So that's what it is. So guys, thanks. This has been lots of fun. Enjoyed it. I know it's, what is it? Oh, it's, what is it, 9 o'clock at night over there? Yeah, 11 or 9, something like that, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I will end up going back out on the ProSelect Facebook group and looking to see what other questions out there came up while I was having all this fun. So Alex, thanks so much.
No, again, really appreciate it, Ron. Thanks again.
All right. Take care.